Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India, India's voice to the world. This is News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. Flights, media, financial and telecom sectors face disruption due to a major global cyber outage. Microsoft says services are improving as mitigation actions progress. Donald Trump formally accepts the Republican nomination for the U.S. presidential election. Democrats, on the other hand, are boosting pressure on Joe Biden to withdraw. In the Bangladesh unrest, the death toll has risen to 19. The protests continue over government jobs quota system. And in cricket, India is going to be facing Pakistan on the first day of the 2024 Women's Asia Cup today. First up, the big news that we are tracking on DD India News Hour. A major cyber outage hit several IT systems across the world, including India, Australia, Germany, the United States, the United Kingdom, several other countries. This happened Friday, affecting many critical services. Airlines, health systems, emergency services were among those disrupted due to the outage. The outage was possibly due to the failure of the CrowdStrike, a cybersecurity platform that provides security solutions for Microsoft Windows. However, it was not immediately clear whether all reported outages were linked to CrowdStrike problems or there were other issues at play. Microsoft said that the services were improving as a result of mitigation actions progressing. And in India, this outage has caused widespread flight delays across airports. The outage hit booking and check-in services of several airlines, including Indigo, Akasa Airlines and SpiceJet. They are currently collaborating with Microsoft to resolve the issue as quickly as possible. The Mumbai airport has been the hardest hit, while the impact at Delhi airport remains minimal, with most disruptions occurring in Terminal 2. Akasa Airlines has released a statement saying that they are now using manual check-in and boarding processes at the affected airports. Due to infrastructure issues with our service provider, some of our online services, including booking, checking in, as well as managing booking services, will be temporarily unavailable. We sincerely regret the inconvenience caused and want to assure you that our teams are working with our service provider to resolve the same at the earliest. This is Akasa Airlines. And SpiceJet also provided an update regarding the disruption of their flight services. And this update said, "We're currently facing a technical issue in providing updates on flight disruptions. Our team is actively working to resolve this issue. We regret any inconvenience caused and will update you once the issue is resolved. Thank you for your patience and cooperation." And we are joined by Ollie Barrett, who's joining us from London with more on this story. And we also have Tapas Bhattacharya joining us from New Delhi with more. Ollie, so, you know, in the UK, like elsewhere, I suppose airports, transport, banks, broadcasters were affected. How widespread was the impact of this outage?
Very widespread indeed, Mark. You mentioned some of the sectors that have been affected there. There are others as well. Certainly it's causing major disruption in Britain, but also across the European continent. When it comes to airports and airlines, one of the things that we've been hearing, for example, from Edinburgh Airport in Scotland is that boarding pass scanners have not been working, and so the airport has had to move to manual scanning of boarding passes. We've been hearing similar from European airports as well. Ryanair, the budget airline, has been talking about disruption taking place to flights and saying that people should check before they travel, check before they head to the airport. When it comes to the healthcare service here in Britain, the NHS, the National Health Service, we've been hearing from a number of doctors' surgeries that they've been only able to offer limited services because of the limited IT capability they have. Some patients have been reporting difficulties with, for example, booking appointments online. Train services here in Britain severely affected too. One company, Thameslink, has been talking about some of the reasons that IT issues have fed through into delays and cancellations on the train network as well. Retail, broadcasting, as you say, this is very widespread indeed here in the UK and elsewhere in Europe. The London Stock Exchange is one of those affected organisations as well. The LSE says that it is operating as normal in many ways, but some of the publication of news services, for example, has been disrupted by what has been taking place. So, as I say, widespread disruption with companies looking into what contingencies they can use to try and move past some of these problems, but many of them simply looking towards Microsoft at this point and hoping that some of these issues will ease in the hours ahead.
Indeed. Ollie, also, inconveniences are one thing, but risks to personal life, to assets and property online, these are quite another. How is the UK government dealing with this?
Well, it's interesting because the UK Cabinet is meeting as we speak, and that was designed to be a meeting that was going to be dominated by the presence of Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, and all the talk was going to be really about UK-Ukraine cooperation against the conflict in Russia and trying to deal with things like Russian oil exports and sanctions on that economy. But clearly in Cabinet as well, you would expect that once the Volodymyr Zelensky discussion has taken place, that government ministers will be talking about the impacts in their various government departments and the sectors in the UK economy that they represent, what has been happening, what can be done in future to make sure that issues like this don't cause so much disruption. So, for example, the Transport Secretary, the Health Secretary, the Finance Minister, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, you would think would all be wanting updates and giving updates on the impacts in the departments that they represent. And as I say, people will be looking to the government as well to hear not just the impact of what's been taking place in recent hours, but also whether plans can be put in place or need to be put in place to make sure that this kind of disruption can be lessened in future. But also, you would think that security experts and the government as well will be looking at the disruption in recent hours and the potential links to the CrowdStrike antivirus software that you were mentioning, and wondering whether that doesn't offer some kind of opportunity to hostile actors in the future, and again, whether that's something that needs to be looked at on a security level as well.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Ollie Barrett, for joining us from London. Let me turn to Tapas Bhattacharya, who's here with me in New Delhi. Tapas, Microsoft says that they've sort of dealt with the issue to a large extent. But, how concerned are Indian authorities? Seems that, we seem to be completely dependent on these servers or heavily dependent on them. What happens if they fail?
Well, not as much as the Western countries, but yes, in India, which is going towards a digital economy, it is imperative that they keep their digital, all the transaction and everything that is that goes with that quite in a safe mood. But what I can tell you, Mark, is that we are still awaiting official confirmation from the Ministry of Information Technology exactly what is happening from their end. But we can tell you that airports, especially especially across the country, Delhi and Mumbai to be precise. They have been hit hard because most of these airports have got digital system in place. So you see, more importantly in Mumbai airport, the reports are coming in that it's a little difficult to manage the scenario, but they are also, the airports authority is working with the airlines to make sure that the manual checking is done in a more smooth manner. For Delhi, there are Terminal 2 doesn't have much of a problem, but Terminal 3 we have seen there is a bit of an issue, but which the airport authorities, the Delhi airport personnel along with the private airlines are working in tandem to sort out the issue. And now there is another report that we are getting from Gurgaon, which is in NCR of National Capital Region.
Let me interrupt you there for the moment, because we are getting a reaction from the former Minister of State for Electronics and IT, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, who's a well-known expert in this field. He said that Microsoft 365 and Microsoft Suite, they are used by millions of Indians. Thus, any outage of these platforms, results in business disruptions for many companies. And he hoped that Microsoft is doing its best to restore things at the earliest.
It is certainly something that is of great concern because, number one, Microsoft 365 and the Microsoft Suite is used by millions of Indians, small businesses, big businesses, individual users, hospitals, and therefore any outage on this platform, it disrupts the business and 24/7 operations of many companies, and like I said, many individuals and small businesses. So I hope Microsoft works on this and restores the service very quickly. It is obviously something that I have never seen before in my life, such an unprecedented global outage, and the horror stories of how airlines and hospitals and users are all impacted points to the need in the days coming of a conversation about the resilience of these platforms, of the fail-proofness of these platforms, and what type of backup systems that they are going to build to make sure this never happens again. But this is certainly a very disruptive and a disturbing event in what we are seeing today around Microsoft.
And we're also going to be joined by Laura Westbrook, who will be joining us, DD India correspondent from Hong Kong. But let me first go back to Tapas Bhattacharya. Tapas, you know that Indian institutions seem to be, I'm talking about institutions in general, whether they are markets, stock markets or hospitals or everything, they all seem to be dependent to some extent on cloud computing. How much of a concern is this for the healthcare sector in India?
It is. We still have. We have to find. We have to get more reports on exactly what kind of impact it had. But I can tell you, Mark, is that we're getting reports from Gurgaon, which is in NCR. It's a cyber city. It's a hub of computing IT hub, and we are getting reports that most of the companies have given their employees an off on Friday. Because nothing is working there. Most of the work that these companies do are on Microsoft platforms, and when it's impacted, there's nothing much. There's hardly anything that they can do. So in many aspects, that Silicon Valley of Delhi, Gurgaon, it has actually come to a standstill. As we were talking about, most of the airports have been affected. Most of the places where cloud computing or Microsoft is being used, that has been impacted. And it's been going on from 5 a.m. IST Indian Standard Time today in the morning. So it's been a while. We believe that Microsoft is working on rerouting its server and making sure that they can get the cloud computing up and running, but it seems that it will take some time. Also, Ministry of Information and Technology is also keeping a close eye on that. We still haven't heard officially from them, but we will give you more update once we get more reaction coming from the Information Technology Ministry.
Yes, Tapas, thanks very much for joining us from New Delhi. Let me go across to Hong Kong now. Laura Westbrook is joining us from there. Laura, how serious was the issue in Hong Kong, and how quickly was it sorted out, if at all sorted out?
Well, it's still continuing, but we have heard from the airport operator that runs Hong Kong International Airport, who has put out a statement and said that flights have not been disrupted. They are continuing, but it has affected many airlines here in Hong Kong, and many airlines have switched to manual check-in to continue serving the passengers. And the airport authority that runs the airport has also said they have activated a mechanism, an emergency mechanism in response to this situation. So it is a developing situation here in Hong Kong. It is continuing to affect passengers who are trying to check in for their flights. But we are hearing that at the moment flights are still operating and are still running. But Hong Kong is like many airports around the world, from Spain to London to Melbourne to Sydney in Australia, which in particular is being very disrupted by this mass cyber IT outage that's affected people all around the world.
Laura, also since Hong Kong is a financial hub, to what extent, has there been an impact, let's say, on the stock markets?
Well, so far we haven't heard any reports that it's affecting the stock market. It is affecting Microsoft operating systems. So that is affecting people in offices, people trying to make payments. We're hearing that in particular it's affecting Australia, where some businesses have reportedly shut down. I was looking at some pictures where there are long queues at the airport, at Sydney Airport. The screen, which is supposed to show the flight updates, is blank at the moment. So that is in particular where it has been hard hit. And we've also heard from the Australian Prime Minister. He's put out a statement saying that after calling this emergency meeting, that he said he understands Australians are concerned about the outage, and he said his government is working very closely with the National Cyber Security Coordinator, but he also said that critical infrastructure had not been affected.
Laura Westbrook in Hong Kong, thanks very much for those inputs, both from Hong Kong as well as from Australia. Moving on then, Donald Trump is now formally the nominee for the Republican Party, and this is for the race of the President of the United States of America. On Friday, at the end of the 4-day convention of his party, he accepted the nomination with a vow to make America great again. And he called upon the party workers to ensure his victory in November.
Former US President Donald Trump, during his acceptance speech, invoked God for saving his life from an assassination bid. It was an emotional, touching 90 minutes plus longest acceptance speech in the history of the United States.
When I heard a loud whizzing sound and felt something hit me really, really hard on my right ear, I said to myself, wow, what was that? It can only be a bullet, and moved. I felt very safe because I had God on my side. I felt that.
The former US President Trump touched upon many important topics affecting United States as well as the world. Hitting hard on the situation of conflict all around the globe, the Republican candidate said that he will end the war between Russia and Ukraine after his victory in November this year. He also said he will work with Israel to end the war with Hamas and address the hostage crisis.
Nobody can believe what's happening. War is now raging in Europe and the Middle East. A growing specter of conflict hangs over Taiwan, Korea, the Philippines, and all of Asia. And our planet is teetering on the edge of World War III. And this will be a war like no other war because of weaponry. The weapons are...
The Republican president nominee, who is poised to get some sympathy votes too due to assassination bid on him, took heavily on illegal immigration and inflation.
I will end the illegal immigration crisis by closing our border and finishing the wall, most of which I've already built.
He promised massive tax cut for the workers and provide relief to middle class in his country.
And you know who's being hurt the most by millions of people pouring into our country? The black population and the Hispanic population, because they're taking the jobs from our black population, our Hispanic population, and they're also taking them from unions.
In his acceptance speech, Trump hailed his running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, and his wife, who is of Indian origin. He also thanked his wife, Melania Trump, and all his family members in the aftermath of his assassination bid and boosting his spirit to fight. He said that his opponent, Joe Biden, is zero and has been running a weak government for the last 4 years. Akhilesh Suman's report for DD India.
What's still to come here on DD India News Hour? Angry rioters set a double-decker bus on fire in Leeds in the United Kingdom. France's newly elected hung house sits for the first time, and they continue with the same speak.
While there's still enough food for everyone on the planet, food shortages are a real problem. Let's take a look at the factors causing this and what can be done to save our food.
What we host now, it's called Farm School. One of the goals is to teach them agriculture so that 50 years from now, when there's so much change in climate, they don't have to deal with learning two new skills.
We empower women who are really poor and who don't have too much economic empowerment to eat better.
We adopt this strategy in our product. The volatile compounds induce the defence mechanism and help to prolong shelf life by 2 more days. So it's purely natural.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Well, the sleepy UK city of Leeds has witnessed a not so usual night when angry rioters, they set a double-decker bus on fire, they smashed windows, they overturned a police car as well. This unrest is reportedly against actions by a local childcare agency that have separated children from their parents and placed them in childcare homes. Security has been increased in the areas with West Yorkshire police saying that they have been dealing with this issue as a serious disorder incident, and they are deploying appropriate specialist public order forces and resources. The Yorkshire police, on the other hand, also have promised a full investigation into all criminal offences, including damage to vehicles from the fire. The British Prime Minister Keir Starmer will host Volodymyr Zelensky at a meeting of top ministers on Friday as he arrives in Downing Street. After hosting the European Leaders Forum in England, Starmer stressed on, to the role of Britain in international affairs, and he also invited Zelensky to address his cabinet. The last foreign leader to do so was the US President Bill Clinton, which happened in 1997. This was to a Labour government. Now, Starmer is expected to tell the Ukrainian leader that Britain will do more in the coming months to dent Russia's war machine. And he also said that he expects a new defense export support treaty to help Kiev draw on export finance. Well, the Kremlin has said on Thursday that Russia would consider any plans to establish a permanent presence in NATO, a permanent presence of NATO warships in the Black Sea as a threat, given the alliance's involvement in Ukraine's conflict. Dasha Chernyshova has more from Moscow.
Moscow has vowed to respond to what it calls concentrated presence of NATO warships in the Black Sea. Commenting on Ukraine's new maritime security strategy, which aims to ensure NATO's constant presence in the Black Sea, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Russia will do everything possible to ensure its own security. He explained that Moscow perceives NATO warships in the Black Sea as an additional threat to its security, especially given increased NATO involvement in Ukraine. The Kremlin also rejected accusations that Russia poses a threat to Europe, arguing that Moscow is defending its interests in Ukraine. Kremlin spokesman also warned that the EU is growing more militarized and confrontational. Peskov explained that EU chief Ursula von der Leyen's idea to turn the bloc into a military union once again confirms the attitude of European states towards militarization, escalating tensions, confrontation, and relying on what he called confrontational methods in their foreign policy. Peskov explained that while joint defense and security policy has always been a part of the EU integration process, it has never been the bloc's main direction of development. Dasha Chernashova, reporting in Moscow for DD India.
France's lower house has sat for the first time since the inconclusive election on July 7 left the country with a hung parliament and no certainty over the composition of a new government. The Speaker, Yael Pivi, has once again been chosen for his role. He's been re-elected. Let's take a look at Ross Cullen's report.
French MPs convened for the first time on Thursday since the general election earlier this month produced no clear result, with no one party gaining a majority, meaning that France has a hung parliament and also currently a caretaker government. Now, one of the first jobs for the new and returning MPs on Thursday was to vote for the position of Speaker of the National Assembly, and there will likely now follow weeks of political discussion between the parties to work out if there is a roadmap to form a future government. Now, a lot of the attention will be focused on the left wing. 4 leftist parties ran under the umbrella ticket in the election of the new Popular Front. They were the Greens, the Socialists, the Communists and the France Unbowed Party, and they are the largest bloc in Parliament, and so they are likely to form the dominant force of any possible future coalition. The caretaker administration here in France will remain in place for at least the duration of the Olympic Games, which kick off in the French capital next week. Ross Cullen in Paris, reporting for DD India.
A long-range drone hit the center of Tel Aviv on Friday in an attack claimed by the Iranian-backed Houthi group on the social media platform. Now, the Israeli military and emergency services said that 1 man was killed and 4 others slightly injured. The explosion occurred hours after the Israeli military confirmed that it had killed a senior commander of the Iran-backed Hezbollah group in southern Lebanon. The Israeli official said that the military is investigating as the drone did not trigger any alarm. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited Rafah crossing on Thursday, and during his visit he said that it was essential that the army continued to control the Rafah border crossing with Egypt and also the Philadelphia corridor, and he said that he had met senior army officers and visited an observer position overlooking the corridor. Now, the country Bangladesh, it continues to simmer. 19 people have been killed so far. Hundreds others have been injured. The country is witnessing widespread protests. 13 people were killed on Thursday alone, and thousands of students have clashed with armed police in Dhaka. This is the worst day of violence so far in these protests in Bangladesh against a policy that sets quotas for application of government jobs. Hundreds were injured as police fired tear gas and rubber bullets to break up the groups of protesters who torched vehicles, police posts and other establishments. The protesters, they've also attacked the Bangladesh television headquarters in Dhaka. The Bangladeshi authorities, they have cut some mobile internet services to sort of quell the anti-quota protests. And the United Nations too has stepped in. They've weighed in on this issue, and they have urged the Bangladesh government to protect the students who are protesting. Students are demanding quota reforms in government jobs against, they should be protected against any form of threat or violence. Let's take a look now at other stories making news around the world. Authorities from Singapore Navy rescued crew members from 2 oil tankers that had caught fire on Friday in the morning. The tankers had caught fire near the Pedra Branca island, and the cause of this fire is still unknown. Canada's General Jenny Carignan became the new chief of the defense staff on Thursday, and she has become the first lady to command the country's armed forces. Carignan comes with an experience of 35 years in the Canadian Army. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. We'll be talking about the outcomes of the Republican National Convention and Donald Trump's acceptance speech. And India's Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, lauds Lockheed Martin's commitment towards Make in India and Make for the World.
As the world gears up for the biggest sporting extravaganza, Olympics 2024, we at DD India are all set to bring you reports, reactions and all the latest action from Ground Zero. Watch DD India's super exclusive show, Cheer for Bharat. Only on DD India from July the 22nd at 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT. Get ready to cheer for Indian athletes at the Paris Olympics 2024.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Here's a recap of our main stories. Flights, media, financial and telecom sectors face disruption due to a major global cyber outage. Microsoft says that the services are improving as mitigation actions progress. Donald Trump formally accepts the Republican nomination for the U.S. presidential election. The Democrats boost pressure on Joe Biden to withdraw. In the Bangladesh unrest, the death toll has risen to 19. The protests continue over government jobs quota system. Well, the walls appear to be closing in on Joe Biden. The U.S. president is facing the strongest calls yet to step aside and withdraw his candidacy for a second term. He's currently self-isolating, having tested positive for COVID-19. Benji Hire has more. He's been following this story for the last 24 hours.
The avalanche of pressure on Joe Biden to stand down has picked up speed significantly as concerns grow over his health, age and fitness for office. Lawmakers at the very top of the Democratic Party, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, are making it known, albeit through media leaks, that they think President Biden has little or no chance of beating Donald Trump. Even Barack Obama has pitched in, reportedly telling allies that his once vice president needs to seriously consider the viability of his candidacy. Weeks on from a stumbling debate performance, recent polls show nearly 2/3 of Democrat voters believe Biden should remove himself from the presidential race. The White House and Biden's campaign remain undeterred. So far, the 81-year-old has served up a temperate, stubborn defiance. But if you take it as a given that there is dissent at the very top of the party, the president's days as a candidate could well be numbered. He is the figurehead of a party disunited, a stark contrast from Republicans who are falling in line behind their nominee following Trump's close brush with death. Benji Haya in Washington reporting for DD India.
And Dr. Rajan Kumar, who's from the School of International Studies at JNU, is joining us now via video link. Dr. Kumar, what do you think? I mean, what do you make of Trump's speech? Some say it was really long, 93 minutes long. But, given the occasion, given the fact that he just avoided death by a few millimeters, all these things sort of probably added to his ability to speak.
Thank you for having me here, Mark. I think the last few weeks were really tumultuous in American politics, and that has upended the politics in America. And we have seen three major incidents taking place, starting with the presidential debate, where the entire issue of Biden stepping aside started. And that was followed by the assassination attempt by somebody, against Trump. And then you have this Republican convention where Trump was expected, and in a way, to some extent, he also tried to deliver a speech which was supposed to be a speech to unify the nation, because America as a nation is completely divided, and many of the Republican supporters they are blaming the Democrats, including Biden, for the assassination attempt on Trump the last week or so. Against that, the speech by Trump, there were some expectations that he'll try to deliver a speech of unity, but many of the critics now are saying that the speech was primarily to unify the Republican and maybe to include the swing voters in the 6 crucial states of the United States, and it was not necessarily a speech to unify the country. Now, in the speech, he referred to Biden just once. He didn't repeat the way he used to target, but he blamed the Biden administration for the failure of the country. He also referred to 2 other things in great detail. One was the issue of immigration, illegal immigration, and he said that from the day one he'll starting an operation which would be largest in the history of America. As you know, the last major operation was by Eisenhower, if I'm not wrong, in 1954. So he is trying to convey a very powerful message as far as the issue of immigration is concerned. He also spoke a bit, referring to China and the kind of the policies that Biden pursued against China. Beyond that, he was not very strong on the issue of abortion, which is a major issue in American politics today, and he knows that the Republican supporters are divided on the issue of abortion. But he was trying to basically to unite the Republican Party on issues, because some of the Republicans also have a problem with Trump. But the last 3 days, the Republican convention in Milwaukee, that was very important from Republican perspective. And what the message that they are trying to give, that many of the Republican leaders who earlier, for instance, this Nikki Haley,
let me come in there. When we hear Trump, we realize that he speaks in hyperbole, and these channels want to always fact check him. Perhaps he doesn't really mean to, I don't know, I mean, this is my assessment, that he's not actually bothered about facts. He's just talking about incidents and he blows them out of proportion. And that's part of rhetoric in speech giving. So do you think, I mean, that also has a resonance with certain kinds of voters, isn't it? Would you think that I mean, that's the man, they were expecting him to change, but that's not going to happen, isn't it? Because a person is a personality, and either you get used to it. Is that something that one should be concerned about for a person holding the office of president?
In my view, President Trump, this former President Trump, he is not known for his either fact and figures. Everybody in US and throughout the world knows that many of the facts in every speech practically that he delivers, there are many factual errors. But and even in this speech that you are referring to, the last convention speech of Republican Party, according to some of the new media reports, he made 20 factual mistakes. And this speech was for 90 minutes. It was a long, boring speech. But the Republican supporters, they do not judge Trump on the basis of facts. He is, he's the person who kind of, who gives a provocative speech all the time. So he is known for that provocation. He is known for bringing out the emotive issues. He is also known for rhetorics and targeting Biden. So as far as the Republican voters are concerned, they are happy with Trump not being factual. And they think that, Trump is not the only person who is not factual. They also blame the other side for making factual errors. But, the issue here in American politics, what the Republican convention did, that it united at least the Republican supporters. And the disadvantage that the Democratic Party, especially the Biden, has at this moment, he'll be fighting not just Trump, but he'll also be fighting, large number, 2/3 of Democrats, as it was reported by your by your reporter from Washington that nearly 2/3 supporters in US they think that Biden should step aside. So Biden's battle is.
Let me come in there again, because on Biden, what do you think is likely to happen? After all, he is isolating, and there are sketchy reports saying that he probably will move out of the race. I mean, those are not confirmed reports, but he doesn't want his vice president to step in his shoes. He'd rather have an open sort of a contest between several people to choose the right candidate. But do you think there's enough time for that?
I think they do have time, because according to polls, Trump is leading by a small margin in many of the deciding states. But as far as this Biden problem is concerned, that many of his own people now, he was the vice president of Obama, but now Obama is saying he has made some statement where it's being quoted in media that he says that Biden's chances of victory have diminished greatly in the last few days. Nancy Pelosi, who was a supporter and who is from California state, a big Democratic state, now she is also saying that he should step down. Biden's financing is an issue. Now, many of the financiers in the United States, they are not supporting Biden's presidency and Biden campaign team. So, I think, Biden will get the message very clear now that he has to step aside. Although the Biden campaign team, as you rightly pointed out, they are very stubborn and they're very defiant. They are saying, no, he's going to continue. And the very close circle, which includes Biden's, president's wife, Jill Biden, and son, and a few supporters. So they are not in favor of him stepping aside. Even Bernie Sanders, who is considered very left in the Democratic Party, he also very strongly supported by continuation of Biden. So there are a few people even now who support Biden, but majority of them, they think that Biden should step aside, including President Obama.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Professor Rajan Kumar from the School of International Studies, JNU. Thank you for joining us. Now, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has congratulated Ursula von der Leyen on being re-elected as the President of the European Commission. The Prime Minister posted on X, "Congratulations, Ursula von der Leyen, on your re-election as the President of the European Commission. Look forward to working together to strengthen the India and European Union strategic partnership for global good." Prime Minister Narendra Modi has applauded defence major Lockheed Martin's commitment towards realising the vision of Make in India, Make for the World. The CEO of Lockheed Martin, Jim Thialset, met Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday. And responding to Lockheed Martin India's social media post, the Prime Minister's office posted on X, CEO of Lockheed Martin, Jim Thialset, met Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and Lockheed Martin is a key partner in the India-US Aerospace and Defence Industrial Cooperation. We welcome its commitment towards realizing the vision of Make in India, Make for the World. Now, India's Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Hardeep Singh Puri, on Friday announced a major milestone that has been achieved at the Dirok field, located on ON 91/1 block at Margarita in Tinsukia district of Assam, operated by the Hindustan Oil Exploration Company in partnership with Oil India Limited and the Indian Oil Corporation Limited. This field has successfully tested a new reservoir, Sand 9, in well Dirok 1, which flowed at an impressive rate of 6 million standard cubic feet of gas per day. The ongoing production testing aims to revise the volumes as they progress the proven reserves of the Dirok field. India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri will be on a 2-day visit to Bhutan. It's an official visit from today. This will be his first visit abroad after assuming charge as the Foreign Secretary. During the visit, Misri will meet the Prime Minister Shering Tobgay, as well as the Foreign Minister D.N. Dungyel and the Foreign Secretary Pema Chonden, among others. Misri will also receive an audience with the Bhutanese King Jigme Khesar Namgyel Wangchuk. And Vinay Mohan Quatra has been appointed as the next ambassador of India to the United States of America. The Ministry of External Affairs, in a statement on July 19, had said he is expected to take up his assignment shortly. In another significant operation, the Indian Army successfully eliminated 2 terrorists attempting to infiltrate across the line of control in the Keran sector of Kashmir. 2 hardcore foreign terrorists were killed along with the recovery of weapons, warlike stores, as well as Pakistani identity cards. And this was the 3rd such successful anti-infiltration operation on the line of control over the last few weeks. Let's take a look at other stories making news. Air India's flight AI-183 operating on the Delhi-San Francisco route made an emergency landing at Russia's Krasnoyarsk International Airport around midnight local time, citing security concerns. Representatives from the Indian consulate in Moscow are working with Russian authorities to provide support to the passengers. In a major breakthrough, the National Investigation Agency of India arrested the key aide and arms supplier of the Khalistani terrorist Lakhbir Singh Sandhu on Thursday. Baljit Singh was found to be a major supplier to other Khalistani terrorists as well as operating from foreign soil. The Central Bureau of Investigation has made an arrest of a first-year student of RIMS Jharkhand in connection with the NEET undergraduate paper leak examination case. And what's happened is that the student was detained after several rounds of investigation by the CBI. The Supreme Court of India will hear petitions seeking to probe into the alleged instances of electoral bonds donations on July 22. Earlier in February, the Supreme Court had struck down the electoral bond scheme and ordered the SBI to stop issuing electoral bonds immediately. Still to come here on DD India News Hour, the world gears up for the greatest sporting event, the Summer Olympics. Just 7 days to go.
While there's still enough food for everyone on the planet, food shortages are a real problem. Let's take a look at the factors causing this and what can be done to save our food.
What we host now, it's called Farm School. One of the goals is to teach them agriculture so that 50 years from now, when there's so much change in climate, they don't have to deal with learning two new skills.
We empower women who are really poor and who don't have too much economic empowerment to eat better.
We adopt this strategy in our product. The volatile compounds induce the defence mechanism and help to prolong shelf life by 2 more days, so it's purely natural.
As the world gears up for the biggest sporting extravaganza, Olympics 2024, we at DD India are all set to bring you reports, reactions and all the latest action from Ground Zero. Watch DD India's super exclusive show, Cheer for Bharat. Only on DD India from July the 22nd at 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT. Get ready to cheer for Indian athletes at the Paris Olympics 2024.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. The Indian Minister for Railways, Information and Broadcasting and Electronics and Information Technology, Ashwini Vaishnav, has posted on X that the Ministry of Information Technology and Electronics is in touch with Microsoft and its associates regarding this global outage. The reason for this outage has been identified and updates have been released. This is to resolve the issue. The CERT is also issuing technical advisory, and the NIC, these are departments of the ministry, they are networking with the affected. In fact, this network, the NIC network, has not been affected by this outage, is what he says. The RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das has been speaking at the BFSI summit, and he said that banks and other financial entities, they need to continuously invest in technology while also developing the right kind of capabilities which successfully tackle challenges like digital frauds.
Another area of concern is the rise in digital frauds. Though many of such frauds are due to various social engineering attacks on customers, there is also a rapid increase in use of mule bank accounts to perpetrate such frauds. This exposes the bank not only to serious financial and operational risk, but also to reputational risks. Banks therefore need to strengthen their customer onboarding and transaction monitoring systems to monitor unscrupulous activities, including suspicious and unusual transactions.
Well, he also said that Indian financial sector is poised to scale new heights, adding that the financial landscape in India is undergoing structural shift.
As I just mentioned, deposit mobilization has been lagging credit growth for some time now. This may potentially expose the system to structural liquidity issues. While there could be a debate regarding deposit funding loans vis-à-vis loans funding deposits, the current regulatory concern stems from the fact that there could be structural changes happening which banks and NBFCs and other lenders need to recognize and accordingly devise their strategies.
Let's get to the sports news now. And India's Union Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports, Dr. Mansukh Mandavia, along with other members of Parliament, participated in the grand opening ceremony of Phase 2 of the Khelo India Rising Talent Identification. This is a Kirti program, the Khelo India Rising Talent Identification program. It aims to develop an integrated talent identification architecture, and it's based on modern information and communication technology tools as well as the global best practices. So the minister has said that enthusiasm and energy of the players is definitely taking Indian sports forward, and the future looks bright. The first phase of this format, called Kirti, was launched in Chandigarh on March 12 this year.
कीर्ति प्रोग्राम के तहत मोदी 3.0 गवर्नमेंट में पहले 100 दिन में 1 लाख स्पोर्ट्स में टैलेंटेड यूथ को स्टूडेंट को आइडेंटिफाई करना है। 1 लाख स्टूडेंट को आइडेंटिफाई करना है, और ऐसा ना हो कि केवल शहर के स्टूडेंट को ही अपॉर्चुनिटी मिले, गांव के स्टूडेंट को नहीं मिले। जी नहीं, शहर में भी ऐसे टैलेंट आइडेंटिफिकेशन करना है, गांव में भी टैलेंट आइडेंटिफिकेशन करना है। एक क्लास के स्टूडेंट को ही अपॉर्चुनिटी मिले। जी नहीं, झोपड़े में रहने वाले मेरे देश के स्टूडेंट जिसमें स्पोर्ट्स में अच्छी स्किल हो, उसमें से भी आइडेंटिफाई करना है, और हमारे अन्य सोसाइटी से भी आइडेंटिफाई करना है।
Well, the first Olympic athletes to arrive in Paris began checking into the Olympic Village on Thursday. Athletes from Australia, South Africa, Japan, Uruguay and the United States were some of the first to arrive to the village, which is in Saint Denis, adjacent to the city of Paris, where most of the competitions will be held. The complex will hold more than 20,000 athletes and delegates throughout the Olympics and Paralympics. 1,500 residents will check into the village for the first day of operations, with more to come throughout the week and into the lead-up to the opening ceremonies. The Olympic Games will start on July 26 and they're going to last till August 11. The 22 times major champion Rafael Nadal is going to lock horns with the 4th seed Mariana Navano in the quarterfinals of the Swedish Open on Friday. Early on Thursday, Nadal downed the 5th seed British player Cameron Norrie in straight sets, in fact, to enter this last. This was in the last 16 encounter. The 22-time Grand Slam champion recovered from a fall in the second set. Quite sad situation given his number of injuries, and he claimed a 6-4, 6-4 win to advance to just his second quarterfinal of the season. Mariano Navano has entered the quarterfinals as well after the fourth seed saw off Indian Sumit Nagal. He won 6-4, 6-2. The first day of the 2024 Women's Asia Cup on Friday will see a big clash. The biggest clash perhaps. The Indian women's cricket team is taking on the Pakistan cricket team, the Pakistan women's cricket team, at the Rangiri Dambula International Stadium. And India will come into this game. They're the defending champions. They have won this tournament 7 times. They have also an 11-3 record so far, head-to-head against Pakistan women in T20 meetings. And on the other hand, Pakistan have entered this event after an inconsistent run recently in their bilateral commitments. But they do have some pretty confident players, and they could upstage India as they did in the 2022 edition of the tournament, which was in Bangladesh. A rare kangaroo joey has made his first appearance at the Bronx Zoo of New York. Born in December last year, joey belongs to a rare species of Matshishi tree kangaroos. They're classified as endangered by the International Union of Conservation of Nature. There are only 2,500 such kangaroos in the wild. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those of you on the go, you can get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. It's available both on Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code and download it. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lin from all of us here in Delhi. Thank you for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.